In today's video, I'm going to be guiding you through the very basic things that you'll need to start your smart home process. Make sure you stay to the end as I cover a very important bonus tip on what you'll need to consider to make your smart home a success. It's quite a bit to unpack in this one, so sit back, relax, and let's start this journey. Alright, so I know you want to get antsy and just start buying things right now, but actually that's what we're not going to do. We're actually going to sit back, do a little bit of planning here, because this is going to be very important. Now is the time to be patient and really start thinking about what can a smart home do for you? Or what does your dream smart home look like? If you're like me and you're thinking about some very crazy things with a bunch of devices, it's very critical that you lay a very good foundation for your smart home. So at this point, you might be thinking, how do I do this? The answer may surprise you. It's 2 words: the internet. In my opinion, many people overlook this step. In fact, many of the videos on YouTube jump right into people talking about devices and everything you need to make your smart home smart. But guess what? We aren't like those other videos. Let's take your house, condo as an example. Analogy time. When your house was built, it started with a sketch, some level of design that eventually became a blueprint. With those blueprints in hand, contractors literally started to lay the foundation of your home. This isn't a construction channel, so we're not going to go too deep. But they took various steps to get the house to the point that the foundation could be laid, and eventually they could start framing. The rest of the house functioning and lasting long term is very dependent on this stage. This is the stuff you can't see, nor is it sexy, but it's super important. As you may have guessed it, your smart home is no different. You may not know everything you want or need in the future, but we need to do what we can to give our smart home the best chance of being successful. To make sure your smart home is reliable, you really have to have good internet. I understand everyone's budget is different, but you really should be investing in the best internet that you can afford. I'm going to use another analogy here. Let's look at traffic. For most of us, when you get on the highway, the fewer vehicles there are, the faster we can go. The ability for us to travel at a constant speed, like using our cruise control, is pretty good. As more and more vehicles get on the highway with us, our ability to go fast at a constant speed begins to slow down. A common solution for this in construction terms is add more lanes. The same idea holds true for our smart home and our smart home devices. Or devices we have, the more they need to talk to each other, the likelihood that things may start to slow down starts to go up. So going back to our previous example, we need to increase our lanes. We're going to call this bandwidth. Hold on to this term. We're going to use it later. So now we know internet is important and we need something that they call bandwidth. So what exactly does this mean for our smart home? This means we're not going to buy a bunch of random stuff and just hope it all works. That's not a plan. We gang are going to start with the end in mind. Once you start to think about what the future of the home could look like, we now need to start thinking about how are these devices going to interact with one another. In most cases, this is either going to be through a physical hardwired connection or it's going to be done wirelessly. This is the foundation of your smart home. One of the best things you can do is invest in a quality internet service provider. You sometimes hear this referred to as ISP, a good modem, and a good router. These 3 things are going to be what's going to help make sure you have a stable, reliable smart home. Okay, so I threw out the term ISP. Once again, that's Internet Service Provider. We're going to cover this really briefly here because there's way too many providers out there. You have to do what your budget allows, but you really should invest in the best quality provider that you can find. Higher speeds and better data packages long term will be in your favor. Some areas have more than one provider, so if you're fortunate enough, this is a really good time to shop around, compare packages, and make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck. Okay, so we've picked a quality internet service provider. They've run all the necessary lines, and now we have cable essentially to the outside of the house. How do we get the internet in the house? Well, that's done with our connection to the modem. There are typically 2 ways that this is done. Either a modem and router combo, so that's 2 devices in one, or you're going to have 2 separate devices where you're going to have a standalone modem and then a standalone router. One thing I want you to focus on when it comes to your modem, and that's maximum speed. The higher the speed, the better for your smart home. However, you don't want to overpay. Let's say you just rush out and buy the best possible package from your internet service provider, and let's say that's 1,000 megabits per second. If your cable modem has a maximum speed of, let's say, 500 megabits per second, then guess what? That means the maximum internet speed inside of your home is actually going to be 500, not 1,000. This is an example of where just buying the best overall package is not necessarily going to get you better performance. Okay, the next thing only applies if you're going to purchase your modem separate from your router. This essentially is the software version of your modem, and this is something called DOCSIS. What the heck is DOCSIS? This stands for Data Over Cable Service Interface Specification. What? The only thing that I want you to worry about here is matching this version with what your internet service provider recommends. As long as these things match, you'll be in good shape. Quick little nugget here. Most internet service providers will provide a list to you of this version or even a recommendation of modems that are compatible with their service. Look for this on the provider's website or perhaps working with their technical support, and they can help you out. If your provider does have a list for maximum compatibility, I highly recommend you purchase something based off of their recommendations. Hey, if you're getting value out of this video, smash that like button and subscribe. This helps YouTube make sure this video gets to more like-minded individuals. All right, let's get back to it. Okay, we've picked our router and we have our modem. What's next? Technically at this point, if you're physically plugging into the back of the modem, that's it, you have internet. Okay, this is great, but not ideal. We need to make sure we can spread the internet throughout the home. In order for us to do this, now we need our router. Okay, I must admit, at this stage, we can go full on nerd mode, but we're not gonna do that. Let me know in the comments if you want some help on this. I can create a video where we can go a little bit deeper into that topic. For now, we're gonna start off with just router speed. Much like with our modem, we wanna match the router with the speeds that our internet service provider has. I do, however, think this is an area where we can splurge. If you have the ability and you can afford it, this is an instance where I do recommend that you purchase a router that can achieve speeds higher than what your modem or what your internet service provider has. But why would we do this here? This allows us to future-proof our smart home system for years to come. If you do have a larger home or a home that has multiple levels, look for a router that supports mesh. This will help you expand your Wi-Fi coverage for better performance. Also look for a router that is dual band or maybe even triple band. For dual band, most likely you'll see 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. For triple band, you'll most likely see 2.4, 5, as well as 6 gigahertz. I didn't mention it earlier, but what I've just mentioned about the router, this applies if you have a modem router combo as well. That's all we're gonna cover for routers here. No need to get more technical than that. Now, earlier in the video, I promised you a bonus tip. This tip is related to what I like to call platform. In the case of smart homes, there are a couple major players like Apple, Amazon, Google, and Samsung. Believe it or not, if you have a preference towards one of these brands or ecosystem, this could impact or at least help influence some of your decisions related to your smart home devices. An example would be if you love all things Apple and you're starting to consider some of their cameras that support HomeKit video, the router that you pick is very important. In the case of Apple, the HomeKit security cameras in a lot of cases do not have a standalone app. You watch your camera feeds through the HomeKit app, and this works if you have a HomeKit enabled router. I'm not going to give much more in detail than that, other than if you do have a preference towards one particular brand or ecosystem, you do want to consider this when you're looking at your router if you're purchasing it on your own. There are some changes that are coming to the smart home technology and how these devices talk that may not make this as important in the future. That's a little bit more advanced. We're not going to cover that now, but that might be something that we cover in the future. What I need you to do is take a little bit of time to think about what your future plans may look like for your smart home. In doing this, you're going to save a lot of time, a lot of money, as well as hopefully a lot of frustration. Until the next one.